this is Mark Rosen from WCCO TV, and it's my pleasure to introduce my good friend Ron Henderson, the Fitness King, presenting Motivation, one word to help change your life.
Hi, this is Ron Henderson. Welcome to Motivation. On today's show, I have the great pleasure of introducing to you Dave Carlson, who is the author of Piercing the Veil. Welcome to Motivation, Dave. How are you?
Thanks, Trent. Good to be here.
Great. You know, I'm excited to hear about your book. Before we get into that, we have a lot of people that come on here who are authors or whatever. Where did you go to school?
Grew up in Bloomington, Kennedy. Went
Okay.
to high school at Kennedy, undergraduate degree at Drake University, and I got my master's degree at University of Phoenix.
Okay. Now, did you go to school for writing, or how did this kind of come about?
I had communications as a background. I double majored with English. I always had an interest in wanting to be a writer, but like so many other writers, a lot of my writing ended up staying on my laptop. And this is the first thing that's actually seen the light of day as far as a publication that'll be readable by an outside audience.
So this is your first actual published book?
Yes.
Okay, can I see that for a second? So, Piercing the Veil, a revealing illusion with God's reality. See that? It's kind of nice, but I like it. I like the cover.
Yeah, thank you.
I even read through a little bit of some of the notes that you sent me on it. Seems like a very interesting book. Now, you're talking about English, so now are you going to correct me now if I don't say things properly on today's show?
No, you speak well.
Well, thank you anyways. So, have you written any other things before this book that it's not published, but have you written anything?
Yeah, I've written a lot of short stories, a lot of poetry. I've even written some songs and had some articles published, but nothing of this magnitude. And this one really, my faith is important to me, and God really put this in the forefront and said, this is something that needs to get out, that other people need to read. So
Right.
I'm happy to have my name on it.
Amen. So what made you actually just sit down and actually start writing this particular book? Can you give me just a little bit on that?
Yeah, it was really as I had an opportunity to get out and share my testimony and share my faith, leading a ministry initiative. People just said you've got a good story, and this isn't so much my story.
Right.
This is kind of a journey on how to hear God and how to respond in obedience to seek Him first, listen to His call, follow His lead, and then go and make a difference in the world around you. So it's kind of a call to action and a go-to book.
Right. Did you have any roadblocks when you were writing this? Things that just kind of popped up that kind of slowed you down a little bit?
Well, I think part of it with any writer will talk about having writer's block or trying to find the right words or the right way to say
Right,
something.
right.
We kind of see our lives unfold as a storyboard, and how personal does it need to be, and how much of it is written kind of outside yourself, kind of looking at the story. And as a writer, you kind of get hung up in which is the best way to
Right.
do it.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
is it
Oh, yeah.
this isn't so much a story about me, my story and me. It's what was God trying to reveal through my experiences, and how can I convey that as a message to help people get connected to what God has in store for
Yes,
them.
yes. Now, did you have those moments, because I know, I have a speech coming up Wednesday this week, and I woke twice last night, and I get up and I write, oh, I'm supposed to have this. Did you have those kind of moments too?
Yeah, and I think what I've kind of found out is the next book was kind of writing itself while this one was being finished. I think the story, I call it a story. It's not really a story. It's kind of a Christian living lifestyles
Yeah.
book. But some of the narrative or some of the stories or some of the background, you kind of get hung up. Where does this piece fit? And then I knew it had to fit someplace in the book, but it wasn't written chronologically, and so I had things that were in different notebooks or different sections that needed to kind of find their place into the overall flow of the book.
Right. What was the hardest thing about actually writing? And the reason I'm asking you this question is, people, in fact, I met an author the other day, and people start books, they never finish them.
Yeah.
So what was the hardest thing about actually,
Well, perseverance, really discipline, and staying committed to it, because I'm I'm like all of those other writers
okay.
that you talked about. I've got probably, I just looked at the computer the other day, there's probably a dozen manuscripts at various stages of completion. And I kind of fall into a pattern where you let something sit for a little bit, then you go back and you find yourself editing it and rewriting it, and editing it and rewriting it. It never really progresses to that next stage. And what I found with this is just a sense of peace in hearing God's voice say, no, you don't have to play with this anymore.
Right.
It doesn't have to be X number of pages long. It doesn't have to be, there's not a number in mind that says it's done. This is ready. So finish it up and get it out there. So that's where we're at.
Yeah. And I've noticed with people who tend to write, let's say, faith-based books, it seems to be like that, David. It's what is the Holy Ghost or what is the Holy Spirit leading you to do? So it's not, like you said, how many pages, it's this is what I need to put out there.
And I don't know if you look at it closely, but I don't have page numbers on there.
Right, yep.
And that wasn't really intentional, but after the fact, it kind of made sense to me because when I look at other books and other books in this space and what's a good read, what's what's long, what's too long.
Right.
I kind of had an idea that it needed to be a couple hundred pages, and this ended up a little bit short of that. But I'm biased because I wrote it,
You should be.
but at the same time, I've got to say this because I can tell that it was inspired because when I read this as a reader instead of as the writer, I could tell where God was speaking through me. And you're reading this on the plane coming back from a project I was working on down in Houston. Reading this for the first time as a reader instead of an author. I could tell where I was like, oh, that's good. I should highlight that.
Right. I hear it. Yeah. So you got blessed by your own book.
Yeah.
Amen. I'm sitting here with author Dave Carlson, who is the author of his first actually published book, Piercing the Veil. By the way, where can people actually order this book? I want to get more into the book, but where can they actually order it?
DavidCarlson.com. There's a link on there it's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. DavidCarlson.com.
That's pretty easy to remember.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Explain a little bit about the book in a little bit more detail, like whether it's a chapter, whatever. Just give me something on the book.
Okay, Revealing Illusion with God's Reality is the subtitle. Piercing the Veil. The premise of the book is that we live in a world of lies. We've got an enemy that wants to take us out.
Right.
The enemy, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And from an early age, we're bombarded by the world standard, what the world expects from us. How we should look, what we should eat. How much is in the bank account? What's your degree? What are you going to do when you grow up?
Yep.
And all of those things are important. But at the end of the day, what is God's call for you? What is the truth of why are we here? I mean, isn't that the ultimate question?
Oh, yeah.
And revealing illusion with God's reality is you kind of cutting through some of the noise of the world, of what the world says it needs, to really focus on God's call for you.
Right.
And so the book kind of exposes the illusion of the world standard and reveals the truth of what God was really after. I mean, He created us to worship Him.
Right.
He created us in perfect harmony with created in His image to do good things, to glorify Him. And we get so sidetracked and marginalized sometimes that we lose perspective that we're eternal beings in a finite body. And once we can kind of see through that and see that God's got a call for us and a purpose to make a difference in the world around us, it really changes our trajectory.
Right.
And that's what this book is about.
Yeah, I like that. It's a very nice cover, but I'm not just saying that because you're on here. I told a couple people that I'll show you the book again. Piercing the Veil by Dave Carlson. Intellectual, articulate, daring, engaging, humorous, and prophetic. Yes, I'm looking, and that was actually my Pastor Anthony Bass did.
Yeah, Anthony gave me a good little. He wrote the foreword for the beginning of the book. Yeah, there's been a lot of folks that have been inspirational in the journey, that have been a voice of encouragement, and certainly Pastor Bass from Endurance Church is amongst the short list of
Yeah.
those folks.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. As far as publishing, did you self-publish this? And for somebody out there listening, you know, what do you recommend? I mean, what are the advantages, first of all? Did you self-publish? And then if you did or didn't, what are the advantages or disadvantages?
Yeah, and again, having lots of manuscripts at different stages of completion, and knowing that I had a sense of urgency to get this done, I did self-publish. And, you know, my strategy, I guess, was kind of threefold: to get the printed book self-published, and there's a lot of avenues that can do that. I did it through Lulu, lulu.com, Create Space, and there's other templates that are out there for self-publishing. And I went that way because, you know, I could work from a template, and I had some help with the editor and, you know, doing the copy and the artistic layout. It looks like it could be me, and I kind of wish it was, but it's not a picture of me on the cover. Right. But the design came together, and I like the look of it. But I went self-publishing for this first launch, and my ambition as a writer would be that a traditional publication might pick it up to market it.
Right. Now, how do you actually promote your book? Do you do social media and?
Yeah, well, right now it's social media. You know, I've got davidcarlson.com. You know, there's a Piercing the Veil Facebook page. I do some promotions through Seek Ye First Ministries. I've had an opportunity to be on some radio and just, you know, through some of the ministry, you know, outreach events and sharing my testimony. And I'll be speaking at Teen Challenge later this week. And there's just, I mean, it's pretty grassroots, but we're starting to get the word out.
Yep. And you said you're thinking about writing another book. You have something else kind of, what is that about?
Well, yeah, it was, I mean, you know, some of the things that I don't go into a ton of detail in, but, you know, when you're seeking God's will and you're pursuant, I refer to it in the book as the awareness factor. When you're aware of God working in the world around you, there's some things that happen that you just can't make up. You know, we might write things off as coincidence, or there might be some, you know, scientific proofs or, you know, things that would be coincidental. But when you're pursuing God's will and He shows up in ways that only resonate, that you know it's of Him, and that some of those stories have kind of evolved into, you know, you can't make it up, and that's where the second book is going. You know, kind of you know, it's not a coincidence, it's a God incident. And that's kind of the theme of the next book.
Yep. Was there a lot of confidence in writing this? When I say confidence, were you confident that you'd be able to finish it? Or, you know?
You know, I kind of saw I kind of saw the end product in my mind's eye. You know, this was like I said, the first book that I had a sense of urgency to finish, and I think, you know, that was the encouraging part, that you know, my part as the author's done. You know, it's written. It's out of the computer, and it's in the marketplace. And now God can really do whatever He wants with it.
Right. On that note, we're going to take a break for a public service announcement, but we'll be right back with Motivation.
My name is Anthony Bass. I'm originally from St. Albans, West Virginia. I am one of 3 children from William and Priscilla Bass. My mom was a strong believer. I remember around about I was 16, 17 years old, she'd wake up every night every morning about 5:30 and start praying. And I didn't know she was praying, but she hadn't done this before. And I just remember the living room light would just come on every morning at 5:30, and I'd be like, what? You know, what's going on? But she was growing in her faith. God was doing something in her heart. Her spiritual formation really impacted me, and it was probably the only understanding example I had of Jesus Christ in the home. You know, that was kind of what I took with me to college in Daytona Beach, Florida. The school's called Bethune-Cookman University. Eventually, my last year, I am one of the best cornerbacks in the country, but my draft stock kind of fell because I was hurt. I wasn't running the 4.3, 4.4. I wasn't as mobile as I was before, so instead of being a 4th round draft pick, I ended up being a free agent. So I played for the Vikings for 3 years. and it was a great experience. While I was playing for the Vikings, at that time God really started dealing with my heart. Man, at that time I just crammed myself with the Bible, with books, like with writing, like it was just me and the Lord. Eventually I realized I think I was called into ministry. And once I knew I was called to be a pastor, the chip on my heart, the chip on my shoulder that was really pride in my heart kind of fell off. And I knew a pastor was my calling, and I didn't have that aggression. I made the choice to go back to Virginia Beach to get my Master's of Divinity and Master's of Business Administration. While I was there was a larger church that, for whatever reason, had a position open for a youth pastor. And I think my background of being a former football player was appealing to them. And they knew I was getting my education as well from Regent, and they brought me in as a youth pastor. At that point, there were some bad things that happened in my life that kind of took me way off track, and I thought I was done with ministry. And at that point, I received a phone call from somebody in Minnesota who asked me to come up here and plant a church. And at that time, man, Endurance Church started to kind of like be birthed, for lack of a better term. We struggled with covering partnerships. We had 4 churches that have committed to help us, and 4 churches that have not been able to help us. The 5th church that committed to support us was Grace Fellowship. So when Pastor Dave came in and offered support, we were like, okay, great, is he serious? But then it happened, like it really happened. So the beautiful thing is now all the people who are with us, my wife and my family, and other people who saw the church as not able to kind of follow through on the promises, for lack of a better term, or what they were not in a position to help us, they were able to see now, wow, it happened. Like after now, the 5th church, finally it happened. And that was really encouraging to see other people kind of go along with us on that journey. It wasn't just us, or it wasn't just me. I was able to see God's faithfulness as we remained faithful to Him during the storm. Endurance Church is a church we're trying to reach out to all ethnicities, all races, all creeds. The mantra of the church, or the vision, is live well, finish strong. And for us, living well is having a relationship with Christ and all the things the gospel entails. Not only that moment you're saved, but also how you kind of live your life after you're saved. And finish strong is ultimately, setting your eyes on heaven and the rewards of heaven. We're just facilitators of people's callings, and we think that's the hallmark of endurance. It's not about one person. It's not about a couple. We're not these great super apostles. We're just people on a journey. Like, I love journeys. Like, we're just on a journey. We want people to come journey with us, Like, we don't have all the answers, but we know the one thing, we're not going to give up, and that's the one thing we have. So we hope that there'll be some people who want to journey with us. That's what Endurance Church is.
Welcome back to Motivation. Ron Henderson, the Fitness King, with my guest, who is an author, Dave Carlson, talking about his latest book, Piercing the Veil. In your book, there's something about a dream. Can you explain that? What is that? What is that all about, actually?
Yeah, I had some reservation about even putting it in the book because this was, you call it a dream or a vision. It was, I had an experience that was as real as me sitting here talking to you.
Yep.
I feel like I had a glimpse of the supernatural, with a vision, and I read about it in the dream, and I kind of referred to it as the fun house to hell, or it was kind of that type of vision where I found myself in a dream state, but I was walking through like the Midway at the State Fair, and it was abandoned, and I was there, and it was like almost like a reality TV or a virtual reality. It was a test of sorts, and throughout this vision or this dream, I felt that I was being tested, and I write about it in the book a little bit. Now, like I said, I was hesitant to write about it because I didn't want it to be so far out there that people would discount other things. Yeah, it is. It's kind of borderlines on the supernatural. But at the end of the day, if you believe in God and, you know, you believe in good and bad, there's an enemy, you know, we call him Satan, and, you know, if there's good and evil, and there's the spiritual realm, you can't discount it. So I felt, you know, the truth will set us free, and I'm gonna go ahead and write about this, because I had a spiritual awakening as a result of that dream. And, you know, when I woke up, having had that vision or that experience, it gave me something to write about. It's not the focal point of the book, but it's part of the narrative that I think resonates, that, you know, we are eternal beings in a finite body, and we, you know, live, you know, in an earthly state, but we're, you know, there's a spiritual realm that's as real as our physical realm. And, you know, if we put our blinders on, if we're guarded by illusion and we discount the supernatural, I think we marginalize our effectiveness.
Right. I know you're gonna be speaking at Teen Challenge. Anything else coming up where you might be speaking, where the public can actually go?
Not anything firm on the calendar as yet.
But they can go to your website.
Yeah, they can go to the website, davidcarlson.com, and, yep.
Okay, now, Teen Challenge. You go in there, what are you gonna be talking about there?
Well, a couple of things. I graduated, I went there as a client, and I worked for Teen Challenge for a few years after I graduated the program, so it's kind of a bit of a homecoming.
Okay.
I'm going there to you know, bless the guys in the program with some encouragement to finish the race. I mean, that's a tough thing to face, and the guys that are in the program, the men and women that are there facing challenges from addiction, you know, need some encouragement. So I can be a bit of a success story, you know, show them that, you know, there's life after Teen Challenge. You know, when give some of them opportunity to read the book and give some books away, and it's a way for me to give back to an organization that blessed me.
Good.
And yeah.
So what do you do for work right now?
I'm an independent consultant. I've got a consulting business that I do, management consulting. I have a client down in Houston that I'm working with, so I travel quite a bit. That's why I know, you know, how long a book should be to last for a flight or two.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, this one you can do on a round trip flight.
Okay, which is what I like. And I asked Dave that question because of the fact that he's mentioned the fact that he was a graduate of Teen Challenge. See?
Yeah.
And so you're a graduate, and you have a great life, great business, and you're writing books. You're doing things to benefit us. I mean, it's a success story, in my opinion.
Well, thank you.
And I like hearing success stories, and motivation is about motivating other people. You know, maybe you're sitting out there right now, and you've heard about this book, Revealing Illusion with God's Reality. That's the subtitle, The Piercing the Veil. And you're thinking, hey, there's a book in me, there's a book in Bobby, there's a book in Sally, there's a book in, you know, Susie, whatever. You're thinking about, hey, this could be me sitting on motivation, or, you know, or just being out there promoting your book. I encourage you, don't just leave it, you know, in the closet, so to speak. Get that pen out, start writing. Okay, whatever God's placed on your heart, start writing it down, and do what you have to do, self-publish that book or whatever, and get it out there, because I believe there's so much to learn from everybody, okay? Every single person, I believe, has a book there.
Absolutely.
I believe it 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay?
I think a mentor of mine said everybody should write their story.
Right.
Not every story should be published,
Exactly.
but I think everybody's got a book in them, and everybody should write it down.
Oh, yeah.
You know, something to leave for your kids.
I would agree.
And like I said, this isn't my story. This
Right.
isn't a written narrative of my testimony. It's you're really just hearing God and helping to guide people into embracing that call that God's got for them, and to you know, search for more in life.
I like that. Has it changed your life at all, writing this book?
You know, it has, because now people refer to me as an author.
Right.
It's a title
Well,
that
you're an author.
Yeah, it's a title that I always kind of wanted that I didn't have, but so that part's a little bit surreal still.
Right.
You know, when I you handed out the first copy and they wanted me to sign it, and it's like, you know, I'm not a
A little different.
yeah. But no, it's fun to be here, and you know, you've been a friend along the journey with me the last few years.
Thank
So I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today.
That's great, and I want to
Yeah.
thank you, Dave, for coming to
Thank
me.
you.
On that note, again, Dave Carlson, say it again.
David Carlson at Piercing the Veil, Revealing Illusion with God's Reality, available at davidcarlson.com.
On that note, I want to thank you for tuning in to Motivation. We're going to see you next time, and all that you do, stay fit, stay motivated, and stay blessed. Until next time, we'll see you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
To book Ron Henderson for your next event, call 612-386-8178 or send an email to ron@fitnessking.com. That's ron@fitnessking.com.